specifically moved somewhere to not be in a city, decide to be a city. When they voted to become one, they're knocking me over with a feather. Because I thought this is exactly what was going to happen. People did not understand what being a city meant. Doesn't mean they're stupid. It just means you went into that election knowing what you knew then. Now we know what we know. Do we want to continue this or not? Because it is a very big decision. Do we want to continue with what we've seen for the last 9 years, or do you want to take a do-over? That's basically what this is. We respect the people enough to provide you with an opportunity to decide your future. We've won already, because that was our goal, was to give you a choice, and we've done so.
It's not a do-over. It's not. All this effort, all the heartache, it doesn't do-over, it doesn't start over, it doesn't reset. You're going to be set back where now the county will pick up, and the decisions about our community that we have worked so hard to actually express and come to agreement on, we've come so close, all goes away. It doesn't start over. It starts behind closed doors where we have way less input. That's a fact. So I just like to say that argument that this is a do-over, it's an extension of conflict that goes back years. That's what this really is. And I'd urge you to really think about what motivates why Disincorporation is on the books. Read the letters the editor out there. Read the things that are said. It's not about what's best for Damascus or best for you or your use of your property or the future of what's going to be provided as services. It's something much baser and I wouldn't say it's very wholesome. Thank you.
Next question is from Chris Hawes. If Damascus was established to protect our people from the surrounding cities, how would disincorporation prevent Damascus from being encroached on by cities like Happy Valley and Gresham? Mr. Hawes, 3 minutes.
Being sucked in against our will into Happy Valley or Gresham was a scare tactic then, and it's a scare tactic now. There are 4 ways by state law you can be annexed into an area, into a city. One is by a vote of the people when a city asks that group of people to join them. Another is the people can petition, and by an agreement of 100% of the property owners and 50% of the people living there, you become part of the city. The third is what's called an island annexation. If your neighbors on one side all the way around you decide they want to be a part of the city and you're now surrounded, you're part of the city. Some may say that's unfair. I think it's no different than what I had when I voted against being into an incorporated city, and the next day I found myself in one. The fourth way is a safety issue. That is, if you're in an area that has failing sewer systems, such as when East Multnomah County had in the 90s, basically the state can pass legislation that says because you have failing sewers and cesspools, you now get a choice. You can either join Portland or you can join Gresham, so you have sewer, period. We don't have failing sewer systems in Damascus, that's not likely. The far most common are the first two, where one way or another you have a vote on do you want to join a city. And Happy Valley isn't going to annex clear over to where we sit today. Anytime you have a vote, you have to give people an incentive and a reason to vote for it. And if they went and said, let's annex a whole bunch of area, the people over 172nd said, what can you do for me? We can give you some sewer, you've got a little police protection, a little chance to develop. The people around here, you say, what can you do for me? And Happy Valley has to say, well, not much, but we sure would enjoy cashing your tax check every year. There's a disincentive for them to try and annex too large of an area. Are some people wanting to join Happy Valley? Yes, we have a group that has tried to, and we're told by the City Council of Damascus that they wouldn't even listen to their de-annexation petition. Those people wanted to make a choice. They wanted to choose which government they were attached to. I think they should have that right. If they don't want to be part of Damascus, then I think they should be part of whatever they want to be. But the vast majority of the people have nothing to fear from annexation to Gresham, Happy Valley, or anywhere else. There simply isn't the infrastructure in place for anyone to do anything. Gresham, we border on what's called Springwater 2 in Gresham. 5 or 6 months ago, Gresham took Springwater 1 off of their 15-year planning horizon, which means they're really not even reaching out this way because they don't have sewer capacity either. That's in the infrastructure plan. that line would have to be increased from a 24-inch to a 30-inch, all the way to the Sandy Boulevard where the treatment station is. Being sucked into another city really isn't an issue to worry about.
So typically the way it goes, there's actually an article a few weeks ago where our former state representative, Patrick Sheehan, voluntarily annexed into Happy Valley, describing how the services were superior. He was doing a remodel. The turnaround of permits was days instead of weeks, and he was more than willing to basically deal with that annexation and volunteer for it. That's what's going to happen, is you're going to have people near the city who have a reason, a compelling reason, to volunteer for annex, and that's what will occur. And typically what that will look like is somebody who wants to develop land. The most prominent, and a guy who's spent a great deal of money fighting Damascus, gone as far to pass legislation in Salem, tried to, is Lowell Patton and his property, Harbor Rock Products is next to Goose Hollow. Guaranteed that guy's going to annex into Happy Valley if it has even an inch of preference over the county for development, which will basically mean all the people around there in the future going forward will have an expectation of annexing to Happy Valley or receiving services from Happy Valley. That's an expectation. You go to further out in the city, there are places that border or near Gresham. They may have an interest if somebody buys land and thinks they can develop it, even if it's interim development where they're making 2 and 3 acre lot developments. They may decide to annex based on that, and then you'll have that beginning to develop, changing the course of what our community will look like. So that's the real question on annexation, is where developers choose to go for the code and the benefit and for the lowest cost of operation and the most leeway for what they want. Keeping local control protects us from that game of lobbyists and lawyers, and I would highly recommend you want local control, because believe me, you're not going to be in the room, you're not going to be involved, you're not going to have a say until the deal's already done if we don't have a local city. Thank you.
Well, we're doing pretty good on agreement on the annexation part. It sounds like we both agree, and I appreciate that Mr. Fitz is willing to avoid the scare taxes so many have tried to scare our people with. I guess where we do get to a little bit of disagreement is this behind closed doors things that keeps being mentioned. State planning goal number 1 is citizen involvement. Decisions on our future cannot, according to state law, be done behind closed doors. We have a right and we have a duty to be there, to influence those decisions. That we have to drive to Oregon City is exactly what I had to do before we incorporated as a city. If I wanted to build a shop when I first built here, I had to go to Oregon City to get a building permit. If I want a building permit now, I got to go to Oregon City. If we disincorporate, I got to go to Oregon City. It kind of seems to me that not lots changing. Thank you.
Next question for Mark Fitz. Mr. Fitz, you keep talking about impending growth, but most folks in Damascus don't want growth. Which one is it? Are we urbanizing or not? 3 minutes.
Well, I'd say, given the donations to Disincorporation, I'd say those who want to disincorporate are pushing for growth, whether they say that or not. So I'd point that out. There are some large property owners who own property that will directly benefit from Happy Valley Code coming faster rather than a Damascus plan coming later. I believe growth is imminent. Believing that Metro doesn't have influence over growth, and the fact that they're not working directly with large planners or large developers to actually make something happen here and get services here, is to be Pollyannish. There will be development. And to say that services aren't here, at one point there weren't services in Happy Valley, there weren't services in Hillsborough, there weren't services in Beaverton. There sure as heck weren't services in the unincorporated Washington County that is completely